Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Have you ever found yourself thinking, why do I keep attracting the same people over and over again, or the wrong people? It's like you go on a date or you get in a relationship and you think that person's totally different, only to come find that it's like the same person in a different costume. You unzip the costume, like, how did I get there? How did I attract this person? Or maybe you're out there dating and you're putting yourself out there, but it just never seems to click, or you think there are just no good men or women out there, right? Well, you might be bumping into something that is quite deeper, and it's usually hidden blocks that are creating the same patterns and preventing you from finding that healthy love. Now, these are unconscious a lot of times, and they're beliefs, there's fears, patterns that keep you stuck in the same dating loop, even when you think you're doing everything right. And as a therapist, I always talk about how our past is connected to the future and the choices we make and the patterns that get created. And we are literally like computers, right? In a way that we will default back to what we know, especially when it comes to attraction or even handling conflict. It's what is called in the psychobabble world the familiarity principle. And what that is that we're attracted to people that feel similar to us by unconsciously repeating relationship dynamics from early caregivers, even if those patterns were dysfunctional or painful. But it's like a known entity. So you might say to yourself, oh, yeah, this is familiar. Or it's like your brain's way of trying to do something over to make it right. But we crave, and ultimately, that emotional safety, but are drawn to what's familiar, not necessarily what's healthy. Another block that I see that's really common with clients that I work with that shows up is in these high achieving analytical types, and you know who you are if you're listening, and you treat dating like a job interview. Oh, and this is why flirting is so hard, and this is why I really like teaching you how to flirt. But you struggle to access that vulnerability and flirtation because the fear of losing control. And the other common block that I see a lot is where you might create this like long, rigid checklist or quickly dismiss potential partners to protect yourself from vulnerability. But the truth is you're really scared of being seen or rejected. There was a woman I recently worked with, and she was the quintessential narcissist magnet. And come to know after working with her that her mother was a narcissist, and things were just never good enough, and she found herself constantly attracting the same dynamic over and over again, even though that she thought she like did the work and did things differently. But it was really the way that she was dating. And when I saw her in the field, like, I saw what was happening, right? Like, I saw her just almost too focused on the guy, making the guy feel amazing, never really saying much about herself, never sharing stories. And we really had to do like a full-blown makeover, just outside and in, both with her mindset, but also how she was showing up. And it was the minute we kind of just shifted into the receiving mode, where she led with almost like allowing that queen energy to show up so that the guy could give to her. And she didn't even know what that is. It completely changed who she attracted. So again, it was only until we started doing it in action that she started getting it with how she had conversations and also her feminine energy. So it really is just knowing the blocks and, what they are, where they're coming from, and most importantly, what do you do to break, free from them? And with me today, I have some amazing guests, they're friends of mine too, who are going to help me talk about how to break through those internal barriers to find lasting love. So they are fellow dating coaches and founders of Creating Love on Purpose, with a holistic approach in transforming hidden blocks to love, and the authors of Getting It Right This Time, Break Free from Your Hidden Blocks to Lasting Love. And they've been featured on countless television, radio, and print outlets, including NBC, Fox News, MSN, and with Les Brown on CBS Radio. And featured, I didn't even know this, as a guest expert on Bravo's Millionaire Matchmaker. And they have helped thousands of singles. I know they've been in the biz a lot longer than I have. So they're an inspiration around the globe, bringing in the beloved life partner to people. And they're dedicated to spreading the message that it's never too late to find love of your life. And did I mention they're friends? I'm so excited to have this conversation. Welcome, Orna and Matthew Walters. Are you there?
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing this for a long time. I'm so excited.
I
It's actually
know.
happening.
Forever, forever. Well, now you have this amazing book. So, like how your book is titled Love on Purpose. Now we're doing this on purpose, but now it's just a chance to talk. I know kind of your story, but I mean, my listeners don't know you and your story. And I do think like it starts with all of our stories, right? So I'd love for you to share just how you got into all of this.
Wow. The short version, the long version, right? So, we didn't meet until we were both over 40. We like to joke that one of the reasons why we're dating and relationship coaches is because between the two of us, we've pretty much made every mistake you can make. And it really was our separate journeys uh, of personal growth, of breaking through our own blocks, of understanding why we were struggling the way we were, that when we came together, that it was something that we just shared in terms of really wanting love, really wanting a healthy, long-lasting relationship. So for me, I'm 23 years sober coming up this fall. And it was that journey, one of really learning self-acceptance, because, to be honest, I didn't like myself so much when I was younger, which is one of the reasons why I was drinking all the time. And I was not somebody you would want to date. I'm probably any of your female clients, I'm the guy you were warning them away from. A friend of mine used to call me the toxic bachelor, and I didn't find this out till years later, because I had all those toxic habits. I would just disappear. I was hot and cold, all of that stuff. And it wasn't until I began to look at my own stuff and what was really going on. And for me, it was a journey of self-acceptance, learning to first like myself and then love myself and then realize that I didn't need to be someone different in order to find lasting love.
Oh my God. I didn't know all that actually, Matthew.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, Orna, do you have the same story? Is your story totally different?
Completely different. I like to joke that we do love on purpose, but business by accident, because the fact that Matthew and I actually have a business together completely happened by accident. We met through a business networking group. I had my life coaching business. I called myself a manifestation coach. I'm a professional hand analyst, reading the owner's manual in your life the owner's manual of your life in your hands. And I still utilize that tool in our coaching today. And I knew who he was and he knew who I was, but we never sat down and talked until like after a year of knowing one another, who each other was. I just joke we're bad networkers. Clearly, we just talk to each other. And then after dating for a while, we were referred to this spa in Hollywood, and they had taken over this a larger space next door, and they wanted to do these like motivational talks, like monthly talk in this space. And so somebody kind of knew us and referred us, and we took the meeting with the general manager of the spa. And we sat down, and I mean, Matthew had his hypnotherapy practice. He's trained in hypnosis and NLP and therapeutic imagery, which is all fancy tools to work with the subconscious mind so you can create behavioral change. And so we sat and took this meeting, and clearly somebody along the way made the assumption we already did stuff together. And so we have this opportunity to be, I think it was like the first or second people to speak in this new space next to the spa. And we said, sure, we got a date, and our people call your people, and we get down to the car and we both look at each other. We're like, what are we going to talk about? And so we ended up deciding that I would share my journey to Matthew and he would share his journey to me. And because we can make an offer at the end of the talk, we decided we were going to put together a weekend workshop that we both had done a lot of work, facilitated a lot of workshops separately. So that wasn't a new thing for us to do, but we had never done anything together. So we created a weekend workshop and we called it Creating Love on Purpose. And we had no idea we were starting a business together. But the talk went well and the workshop went well, and the rest is history. So we've been working together ever since by accident.
Oh, I love that accidental love on purpose story. That's so great. Um, well, so question. I mean, Matthew, like with your journey and Orna, I know, like, I mean, we all have personal journeys. Like, did you find that with the two of you that you broke a pattern, like that somehow you were different with each other than other people you dated?
I would say my experience was completely different. So I grew up in a home filled with abuse, and in my 20s, I ended up in a relationship with a guy who ended up being an abuser. So I left that. So I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I mean, I guess you could say that even with my childhood, but this specific event was something that really shaped me because I didn't date for almost 5 years or something, after that. And
Yeah.
I was married to my work person. So what that meant, I worked in the film industry. If you live in Los Angeles and you're married to your work, I bet you work in the entertainment industry. So I was working 18-hour days, and I suddenly realized my whole life was my work. And at some point I had like a spiritual awakening. And what I realized when I really wanted a loving partnership, that I didn't know how to do it. And I didn't trust myself to even pick somebody because I had made such a bad choice in the past. And so I think really what happened for me is I knew what I was like when I really clicked with somebody. I would get really sort of obsessed with them. Like I was just
Mhm.
constantly thinking about them, and are they going to call me and this and I remember once going on a date with a guy that was super hot, and we had separated, and literally my inner critic was like, "You didn't, and you haven't, and you should have," and I was like, "Oh, I can never see that guy again." And so I didn't, because I was like, okay, so now I knew what I didn't want, and that doesn't get you any closer to what you do. But with Matthew, it was a completely different experience.
Mm.
And with Matthew, I had known who he was, so he wasn't a complete stranger, but I didn't know anything about him. But there was just this, I just felt really sort of grounded and comfortable, and I wasn't anxious and I wasn't obsessing about it. I just was like really curious and I wanted to know more. And the only way I can describe it, it was like I felt like my feet were planted firmly on Mother Earth, and I felt like I had like the roots of an oak tree. Like I was standing tall, and I felt grounded and peaceful inside. But at the same time, it's magical to fall in love, right? Fall in love is the only way we can say it, right? And so that sensation also made me feel like if I chose to, I could fly. So when I met Matthew, I felt like I had roots and wings. And so for
Mm.
me, it was just a really incredible experience because I'd never had that feeling. And I realized that all of the other stuff was me selecting a familiar, not good match for me. And this was the signal that, oh gosh, I always tell my clients, like, look, it felt like roots and wings for me, but I don't know what it's going to feel like for you. But it won't feel like what you think it won't feel like that thing that you thought you were looking for. It'll be different.
Yes, that is so true. Well, and as you're talking, I'm feeling the sense of like safety and security, which is what we all need. And like up until then, I mean, you were in situations that were not safe and not secure. So like, I love that you felt that. Matthew, how about you? How was it different for you?
Well, I mean, because I didn't like myself, I had this funny inner dialogue when I would meet a woman who was interested in me, right? If she was like, "Well, you're smart, you're cute," and my first thought would be, "Well, what's wrong with you?"
Oh,
And then my next thought would be, "Well, wait till you get to know me, and we'll see if you
yeah.
still feel that way," right? And then I would promptly sabotage that relationship.
Mm.
And then I would chase unavailable women because that felt right, right? Rejection and love, that felt right. And but when I met Orna, it was completely different because she liked me from the start. It was clear. She didn't say it, but certain things she did. I was like, oh, she likes me. And I didn't have that same inner dialogue. In fact, when we were, it's probably 2, 3 weeks into dating, and I was over at her place, and I think she was making me dinner, and I made some self-deprecating comment about myself. And she goes, oh, be nice to this guy. You're perfect exactly as you are. You don't need to change a thing.
Oh,
And for the first time in my life, I didn't argue in my mind about that. I didn't say, well, I don't know if you think that way right now, but we'll see if you think I need to change or not, right? There was none of that inner dialogue. It was just like, oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you. That feels good. Because I had done the work to really shift that story. And that's the key. It's like, Orna didn't shift the story for me. I did the work first in order to be able to be with somebody who I wasn't chasing, right? To be with somebody who liked me and I could just be comfortable with that. I had to get there first before I could be comfortable in that relationship.
I know it's so true, right? And I just got done talking to my client about this because she's been so focused on the man, the man, the man, and her checklist, and it's like none of this has to do about the man. It's about you. And like when you shift it, to me, that's where the empowerment is too. Because I mean, you can't change other people. All you can do is look at yourself, do something different, and get different results. So I love that you said that. Well, and it kind of relates to what I wanted to ask you about in your book and all that. So it's like, we're talking about you both came from challenges and barriers and things that you were grappling with. What were some of those like hidden barriers that you saw specifically that you overcame and also like that are common that you see with your clients as well? I mean, because I fleshed out some of them in the beginning, but I didn't know there's so much more.
Well, here's the book for anybody who wants to see it.
Yay!
It's called Getting It Right
So
This Time.
pretty.
And the book is broken into three sections. And so we don't really consider this a dating book per se, because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. So the three sections of the book, the first part is awareness, the second part is transformation, and the third part is manifestation. And
Ooh.
so the awareness chapter revolves around what we call the biggest block to love. The hidden block to love is what we coined this phrase called your love imprint. Because you learn about love in your family of origin, just like you learn to walk and talk and do everything else. And so long before you knew who you were or how the world works, you made a decision about yourself, about what's possible in love, that's still sort of running the show. And we never like to bag on parents because parenting is the toughest job there is. I know you know that personally.
Yes,
And
I do.
so, but we like calling it a decision. You made a decision about yourself, right? So, if you were raised to believe in Santa Claus, when you found out Santa Claus wasn't real, probably you were disappointed, right? But most people, when they're grown up and we ask them decades later, are you still upset that Santa Claus isn't real? They laugh. And they're like, no, no, I'm not still upset about that. I raised my kids to believe in Santa Claus, right? It's like this thing. But somehow, when we make these decisions about our primary caregivers, when we're little, your love imprint is basically made up of those limiting beliefs that you have about love, those mental emotional patterns, and your behavioral strategies for giving and receiving love. So at the end of the first four chapters of the book lead you to that fourth chapter, the last chapter in the section of awareness, where then you can diagnose your own love imprint. Because
Mm.
knowing your love imprint is the key to then having that specific transformation you're looking for. So we literally walk people step by step through this system of identifying their own specific block to love. I mean, just the other day, we did a love imprint session with somebody, and we discovered a love imprint we'd never diagnosed before. This was a completely unique, outside the box, person. And that's the way you are. Every person, like your love imprint could be as unique as your fingerprints. We certainly give examples in
I was
that
gonna
chapter.
say, could you give an example of what a love imprint is, or
Of
like just
course.
yeah, because I love that.
So as Orna's looking,
For the list that's in the book. Yeah.
so we always say that your love imprint is the language of the wound. It's the language of the child as well. It's not an intellectual idea as
Right.
much as it's a visceral understanding. It's like, oh, this is like, oh, that's what it feels like.
So here are
That's
some
yeah.
examples. I'm not going to there's quite a few in the book, but I'm not worthy of the love I want. Love is not safe. Oh, this one's
Mm.
really popular. I have to sacrifice for love. And we always say, look, parents, of course, you love your child and it's appropriate for a parent to sacrifice for a child. Between two adults, sacrifice doesn't play a role in love, right? So I
Mm.
have to sacrifice for love is not it. I'm invisible in love. I don't count or matter in love. I am unlovable. Love is a mystery. I'm unlucky in love. Love is for other people, not me. So this is the place where you want to set your brain aside when you're going through this exercise because you're not going to get the answer from your brain. It's a visceral response that you get when you have the right language, and it's always the language of the child. And so it's not that this is true with a capital T, it's just that you're moving around as if it's true. So, like, my love imprint is I am unlovable, right? I grew up in a home where love and pain were intertwined. And so I must be unlovable. I was always doing something wrong. And I also, like you were talking about in the beginning, about having this client whose mother was a narcissist, my mother, malignant narcissist. So I was never good enough. And so, it's this thing where when you grow up with a parent that you can never please, of course you feel unlovable because you need love. There's two things a baby needs when you come into the world, besides your physical needs to be met. Emotionally, you need to feel loved and you need to feel safe. And you will literally twist yourself up into any shape to try to earn that love from your caregiver, whoever that is. And so knowing your love imprint sets you free, just that diagnosis, because it lets you know that familiar bells and whistles that go off. Like, we ask people all the time when we have a new client, we ask them that sensation you describe as falling in love. What does it feel like? And people tell us, oh, I'm off balance, I'm spinning, everything's all bubbly, I can't see straight. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Floating on air.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can, like, a feather can knock me down. We're like, whoa. Like, none of them, there's not the sense of safety or grounding or consistency. And so when you realize that the sensation you think you're looking for viscerally in your body is actually the signal your subconscious is saying, this is familiar, this is familiar. And if familiar is not what you want, whoa. Once you actually diagnose it and you feel the sensation with the words to your love imprint, you go, oh my gosh. And suddenly when you get the signal, that you immediately know to deselect. So then you don't have to worry about focusing on what you don't want.
That is great. Yes, and it's such a good way of explaining it because and I don't know if you find this too, but working with a lot of people who didn't grow up with being able to express emotions or feelings, what they do is they get caught up in, the visceral feeling of being in love because it's a feeling. So they're usually sexually driven and just kind of those like tornado ones that I call. Like, they swoop in, they're hot and heavy, and then boom, they drop you down and you have all the remnants around you. You're like, oh my God, what just happened? But if you're not used to talking about feelings and building an emotional intimacy, the physical intimacy feels like that's the real thing, right? Because that must be love. And I love that you're in your book, like, you're almost intellectualizing the feeling, if that makes sense. Like, it's in such a great way because I think it's hard for people to understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
When you talk about people like that who, your parents would say things like, "Oh, you're not upset. I'll give you something something to be upset about," right? And they in so many different ways discount their feelings.
Yeah.
That not only do they get caught up in those whirlwinds, but I think one of the reasons they do is because they're looking for external validation
That's right.
of their feelings because they don't trust their own emotional state. And so when somebody comes on strong, it's like that's like really strong external validation. Oh, I am lovable. Oh, I am attractive. Oh, I am, right? And here this person's reflecting all that back to me. So I must like them,
Yes.
right?
And it's
Because
a
I like the
drug.
feeling of being, pursued and the feeling of being somebody who's really turned on by me, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like you said, they mistake that for love, and yeah, they end up on that roller coaster.
I think the hardest part when you grow up, when your feelings are discounted through your formative years, right? It's like having a compass without north. You don't know what north is anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's this debilitating thing because then you don't know how to choose somebody, right? And I'm speaking from my own experience. Like I was in this relationship before it was the relationship before the guy who was the abuser, by the way. I that was this relationship is one of the few. I was only the initiator of a breakup twice in my whole life, and this was the first one of those times. And he came on so strong and he was a wonderful guy, like not abusive, not anything, but he was so sure that I was his person. And so I kind of like rode the coattails of his assuredness, but it didn't actually feel right for me. Like I ended up breaking up with him right before the holidays because he started asking me all these questions about what kind of engagement ring I would want and all like he was getting ready to ask that question and I was like sweating, I was just like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Because it was like I was riding the coattails. Like I wanted to feel as strong. It couldn't have been anybody. I've certainly done the dissected this whole younger version of me to know why it was this person. And he really gave me this roadmap for this idea that we hear all the time, right? Because we hear all the time from clients who are divorced, and they'll say, "Oh, it was like my should guy, or it was my should person." It's like I should. He'd make a good father. He wants the same things I want. My friends love him. He comes from a good family, and this was all true about this relationship. And so, in some ways, I was like, "Oh my gosh." Not I dodged a bullet because I would have never described him as a bullet, but he wasn't my person. And I always wish him well when I think about him. I always think, "Oh, God, I hope you really found somebody great." Because I know I'm sure I was the one that got away kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I just, he was super nice and super great, but he wasn't like, I would say it like this, the really great person doesn't make somebody your person.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much more that goes into it being your person because your person is going to have something that's unique for you. It isn't going to be a generic umbrella of, oh, this is a great person. Anybody should marry them. You see how silly it sounds when we say it like that? And so we can't settle for a lifetime. And I think a lot of times when we've been burned by investing only with the chemistry forward or with our heart forward, that we end up, so many of our clients, they try to take chemistry out of the equation altogether because this is the opposite of what we were just talking about, right? The person who's charged physically, right? Because the emotional stuff is too difficult for them. And so the charge is like, oh, let me have this connection with this person. It's physical. And so the other flip side of that is the physical led them in the wrong direction enough times. And when we're smart, we try other approaches. And so we go, let me try to cut the chemistry out of it altogether. But you can't settle for a lifetime. Like we always say, look, if you're going to bake bread, you're going to have flour, water, a pinch of salt. But what's the secret ingredient? Yeast. You need the yeast. Right now, yeast alone. You want to eat that? No way. Right. So think of chemistry by itself like yeast in bread. Because if you leave the yeast out of it, what do you end up with? A cracker. You can be satisfied with a cracker if you want bread? No, hell no, right?
Well, if you put some jam on it, and make it butter,
no. We're working with a limited pantry here. Okay.
But it doesn't have the chew. It doesn't have the crust. Yeah, it doesn't have all of that good stuff that good bread has.
You can't forego chemistry because look, there are ups and downs when you share your life with somebody. And what is that glue, right? You're going to, like we have this great phrase that we say to each other, I love you anyway.
Oh,
oh gosh, you're making me crazy right now, but I love you anyway, right? I choose you anyway. And that comes from that chemistry piece. So you can't forego that hum on a yummy stuff. You need more than chemistry, right? Like we always like to say your head and your heart have to be in harmony to create a lasting, loving partnership.
it's so, so true. And I think that to your point, I call it the pendulum effect. Like sometimes when you have something over here and it doesn't work, people swing all the way to the other side.
Yeah.
That's not good either. And it's kind of like somewhere in between. I do something very similar with my clients. I do this chemistry analysis with them. And because I believe there's 4 domains of chemistry, and I literally, as they're dating, they have to fill out what percentage they fall in each category of chemistry because it is more balanced. balanced than that. It's not just one thing. And usually when it's one thing, that's when it's imbalanced, right? So,
Correct.
yeah. Well, so I want to go back to what you were talking about because it seems like, okay, like you walk in your book through people to have that awareness, and then now you have your kind of blueprint, if you will. Then the third, you said the manifestation, is that the
Well,
Right.
so
But the
we were
second,
talking about that first section is awareness.
so the second section is transformation.
oh, transformation.
And
Okay.
this is right. So many people they want to focus on manifestation, right? They want to create the vision, they want to set the table for two, they want to whatever, thing they want to do. Manifestation is so much more sexy, right? It's because I want to see it happening and I want to watch them come into my life or watch it come into my life and make it happen. But if you don't have awareness of where you're coming from and why it hasn't been working, and you haven't done the transformation,
Yes.
manifestation will never work, right?
I love that you said that too. Because, like, people think, oh, I'll just manifest the man of my dreams. And, it's like the guy on the white horse just doesn't come knocking on the door, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah,
what are some tips?
yeah. So it's interesting you say that because we did a love imprint diagnosis with this woman recently.
Uh,
And she even said, oh, when I was a little girl, I was the princess and I believed in all the fairy tales. And I always knew that love was going to be romantic. And as soon as we diagnosed her love imprint, she's like, oh, yeah, you're right. It actually is. Or I can't remember the words, but it had to do with the falseness of that story. And she totally got it. And then when she wanted to take the next step, she's like, no, I'm going to just wait because I think it's going to happen. Right? It's like she was so invested in that story that it's just going to happen. And it's not. So, transformation,
Yeah.
a big part of transformation is really reparenting yourself. We
awesome.
have a whole chapter on what we call fill your cup, how to fill your cup to overflowing so that you're of service from your saucer, not from your cup. And it's about sacrifice in relationship. Do you sacrifice yourself, right? But the way you fill your cup is you reconnect with that inner child and you reparent yourself. You take yourself on inner child dates and you actually set up a whole consistency program of connecting with that part of you. So you show that part of you that you're no longer going to abandon them. You're not going to abandon your inner child like you did when you were a little kid in order to get love. And so you have to reparent yourself in that way. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah, and so every chapter in the book ends with exercises. And so another exercise we have in transformation is learning to talk to yourself like someone you love. And we use a bracelet as an example. We partnered with this company called Soul Coup out of North Carolina. And so this is a love on purpose bracelet. There's two versions of it, a sort of a more masculine version and a more feminine version.
So cute.
And so there's a QR code on the back, and the QR code takes you to a video tutorial about how to turn an ordinary bracelet into a tool of transformation so you can speak to yourself like someone you love. Because we all know that our thoughts are habitual, just like our behavior. And so this exercise, this bracelet exercise, actually takes something that's unconscious, makes it tangible and conscious, because you can't change anything you're not aware of. That's why the book also starts with awareness. So in this transformation phase, the exercise of the bracelet is literally training yourself to create a new habit in a new positive thought and getting rid of an old negative thought. And so these are available at soulcoup.com. And the ladies is it's a rose quartz with rose wood.
Pretty.
And the more masculine version is moss agate with robles wood. And so that we partnered with them for this really exciting. You can also, by the way, just use a hair tie or a rubber band or whatever you want. It's just something that you move from one wrist to the other to actually go through this bracelet.
I love that because it's a honing device, right? Like it's something because I do the same thing at my dating retreats. I give everyone necklaces, and it's so funny because they never take them off. When I see them like months later, it's something else. They're like, I touch it just to remind myself. Like it's just something that grounds you, and I think that's brilliant. By the way, if you're listening to this on audio, go to YouTube so you can see the bracelets because they're so cute. Okay, so then what happens with then manifestation? And I like that you do something tangible for the transformation because it's not just this woo-woo thing. So how do you describe it?
Well, all of our transformation steps are tangible. We don't
Yeah.
really think that anything we do is super woo-woo. I hope you don't take offense or anything because I know a lot of times you said it earlier, attracting. We in our book we dispel this myth. You're not attracting someone, you are attracted to someone. And
Ah.
so you're attracted to what is familiar. So really in the transformation phase, we have so many different exercises. The cool thing is in the book, at the end of every chapter, there's also a QR code with bonus material. So
Oh,
if you
cool.
want to go deeper in a particular topic, because again, people are so unique. And so, it's kind of like in school, you might need a tutor for a particular subject, but excel in another where you don't need a tutor. And so we have different extra bonus material at the end of every chapter. So if that's where you're like, oh gosh, I don't really know what I'm doing here, I don't understand, or gosh, I wish they went deeper into this concept, you get the extra bonuses right from the QR code.
Oh my gosh, it's so brilliant. I love how you integrated all this stuff and no, and I don't take offense to it at all. Like, cause I always joke like I'm such a practical, tactical kind of person. And it feels like even like with manifestation, you have to have some like practical things that help
Yes.
you manifest. You can't just sit there and, do kumbaya kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right, right. Well, I mean, so let's talk about visualization for
Yes,
for
yes.
instance, right? Because the reason that visualization works is because we can't. So let me take a step back. There's
Okay.
a common saying that we use. And maybe you're talking about speaking on stage in front of 3,000 people or jumping out of an airplane, right? You say, I just can't see myself doing that. I can't see myself doing that. No, I just can't see myself doing that. And you're speaking a literal truth. What you're saying is, I cannot create a picture in my mind where I see myself standing on a stage speaking to 3,000 people. And if I can create a picture of it, it's terrifying, so I'm not going to do it. Right? So
Like, be careful what you
visualization,
say out loud, basically. Don't make
exactly.
yourself true. Yeah.
So visualization is about having an endpoint, seeing yourself having the thing that you want.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, when we talk with a potential client, we say they're really clear on what they don't want. They're really clear on what doesn't work. They're really clear on their past. But we say, well, what does it look like, what you're looking to create? And they go, well, I guess it's somebody who, and it's vague, and it's ephemeral, and it's not specific. So when you can create that specific image, that scene where there you are, maybe you're having dinner and something happens. Maybe there's a disagreement between the two of you over that dinner. But then he responds in a way that nobody else has ever responded. He hears you and he sees you and he acknowledges your feelings and he works through the problem with you right there in the moment. Well, now that would be an interesting scene to be able to see yourself having that experience, right? And when you can see it, then you can create it.
You
Love
know,
it.
I always think it's funny when people poo-poo visualization because if you talk to anybody who's achieved anything, they've pictured in their mind.
Oh,
Talk
100%.
to
Yeah.
anybody, any Olympic athlete who's won a gold medal. Talk to anyone who's won a bronze medal, for goodness sakes, right? Anybody who's achieved anything. Talk to any actor who has a Tony, an Oscar, an Emmy, right? Ask them, and they will say, oh my gosh, I have dreamed of this moment. I have spent so much time visualizing this happening. I've spent time visualizing this happening. So don't throw out visualization as something woo-woo, but there is a specific way we walk people through visualization because the reality is you need to be able to see it. And I think sometimes people don't think they can visualize because people do it differently. And so I just want to give permission to anybody that's listening that if you, when you close your eyes or imagine or pretend or whatever, however you do it, maybe you hear it. Maybe it's a visceral in your body. Maybe it's a body sensation. If you don't get an image of something in your mind when somebody tells you visualize, that's okay. That just means that's how you do that thing. And so I want you to understand that discovering about yourself is going to show you how to utilize the manifestation tools because manifesting and really getting a clear picture of what you want. And I think the other thing that's so important is when we have our clients visualize, we never have them, even if they want to get married and have kids, we don't go to that end result because there's a time where before an engagement, a proposal, a wedding, the birth of your seventh kid, whatever, right? You're going to know long before that it's your person, right? And if all you do through the dating process is avoid conflict and never speak your truth, if all you do is go along to get along through the dating process, you are never going to meet your beloved life partner. Because when you share your life with somebody, you will have bumps. Just like as a single person, throws you curveballs. You will still have curveballs when you're partnered up. And so how you move through conflict. Like our first fight was over fresh figs. You can't make this stuff up. It was Black Friday, dun dun dun, the Friday after Thanksgiving. And I had picked up fresh figs from the Wednesday farmers market, and I was over at Matthew's for Thanksgiving. And on Friday morning, we had an unequal amount of figs left. And when I came in with the figs, I did the fig dance because I love fresh figs. And Matthew was like, "Oh, that's great, whatever." And so there we were, our last 5 fresh figs, and I gave myself 3 and himself 2. And we had this little thing about it because both of us were raised in a household where love equals food. So
oh, interesting.
I found out how important food is to Matthew because he declared that all the things. What did you say? You said something like, "Well, I would never give myself more of something because I thought I liked it more than you." And I was like, "Oh, and this is, of course, after I finished eating the 3 figs and had only given it 2. So what did we do? We put fresh Black Mission figs in our cake. That was the filling in our cake. In our wedding cake. Because we knew when we got married, there were going to be other struggles. There were going to be other challenges. And we committed to finding our way through these challenges. Because having a conflict doesn't mean it's not your person, right? Having a conflict is normal and natural. Anybody you spend time with, what do you say about the Dalai Lama?
No, I always say if I spend as much time with the Dalai Lama as I spent with Orna, at some point I'd be annoyed about, like, really, do you have to eat your rice like that? I mean, so annoying.
So conflict
Right?
is any
person, any other human being at some point is going to annoy and frustrate us. Or our anxiety and our need to try to control our environment because we're anxious is going to drive our partner crazy. Right? All of our strategies, everybody, you get together in relationship with somebody who has different strategies for dealing with stress than you do. And if you can't navigate those differences,
that's not your person.
That's not your person.
You have to know before.
But you should know that you can navigate your differences before you get married.
Yes, it is the communication piece, but it's also the awareness piece and where everything is coming from, and then talking through like all those triggers because that's the thing too, like later in life, we all have trauma and baggage as we get older, and then it's navigating both of those, right, with each other. So that's why it gets a little bit more tricky than when you're all in the same swimming pool in your 20s. Of course. Right? Like that doesn't happen. So
yeah. And so I just want to say, like, one of the most tangible exercises in that manifestation section of the book, in manifestation, there's how to turn conflict into a deeper connection. It's right in the book, right? Because it's tangible, it's accessible. It helps you in all of your relationships. We've had past clients tell us, "Oh, I read your book and I kind of forgot about that conflict thing, but I used it at work and I got a raise or I got a promotion," or right? So there's a whole bunch of goodies in here to help you all the way through, to help, again, with the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself.
Yay. Oh my gosh. So good. See, I knew we would go over because we could keep going. We'll just have to have you back at some point. Yeah, I think, what you said, I just want to put a button on something that you said, and then I want to just have you shout out where everyone can get your book. It is like that whole visualization that you were talking about. And if you can visualize, say, your career or athletics, it's usually because it's something that you're good at that's also safer, because that's maybe more where your confidence lived or you got praise. when it comes to dating and relationship, if you don't feel successful, you've had a lot of trauma and hardship and burnout with it. It's like it's hard to prioritize that and believing that you could visualize it just the same as you could, in a career. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to mention that because it's hard. This is harder than like an athlete,
Oh, I agree
Well,
with you
right?
100%, but it's where those lists don't help you, right? Like the list, the
Exactly.
obsession with the qualities of the
Oh my
person.
God, totally.
And so it's not about the qualities of the person.
No.
How do you want that? What's the dynamic you want between you? How do you want somebody to treat you when you're upset? How do you want somebody to treat you
Yes.
when you've had a bad day, right? All of these things are more important than what's on this list. The dynamic between you and another person. That is really the more important list. Like being born and raised here in LA and working in the entertainment industry, in the film industry for so many years, I met all these funny guys online. It seemed like every guy I was either a comic or a writer or a comedic writer. I mean, everybody. And they were all successful when I was online dating. And what I realized was that I really wanted this dynamic where somebody wasn't could do more than just say a truth in jest. You know what I mean? Where they say the thing they want to say, but it's a joke. Oh, I was just kidding. Like, oh, that's not what I wanted at all. Right. And so knowing how you want the dynamic between you is way more important than knowing what color hair or what kind of car he drives or how much money he does or doesn't have in the bank.
Amen. Matthew, any last words for you?
wow, there's so much we just went over today, and I just want to say when you talk about those people who've had those struggles, right, who have not been able to find any dates at all for whatever reason and are feeling the despair, that there's nothing there's nothing really that can get in your way if you can begin to change that story. If you
Yeah.
let go of the pain of the past and you can start fresh. Because love doesn't discriminate. Love
Mhm.
doesn't say, well, you're smart and attractive and successful, so you get love, or you're confident, so you get love, or you're funny, so you get love.
Or you're
But you,
25, you get love.
right? Or you kind of depressed
Yeah.
person, well, sorry, you don't get love, right? That's not that's not a truth. Love is not meant to be, nor is it meant to be when love ends. This is not about fate. You can create it yourself. And it really takes the first two steps, the awareness and the transformation.
Mm,
Then you can see it.
so good. All right, tell everyone where they can get your fabulous book. And I can't wait. I need one, by the way.
Well, you can pick it up anywhere and everywhere books are sold. So there is an audiobook. We are the narrators. Sorry, Matthew. I didn't mean to put that in front of your face.
That's okay.
I just wanted to hold it up a little closer. So Getting It Right This Time, co-authored by Orna and Matthew Walters, everywhere. Just pick your favorite retailer, or you can go to our website, loveonpurpose.com. And actually from our site, we'll still have you pick your favorite retailer. So you just everywhere books are sold. It comes in every format. There's the hardcover, the ebook, the audiobook. So however you like to consume your books, it's available. And we are going to be heading out on a book tour. So you can also check our website, loveonpurpose.com, to get our tour dates. And I hope you're coming on Sunday because we have an event on Sunday.
Oh, so excited for both of you and just keep spreading the love as you have. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining me today, you listening. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, as always, kimmyseltzer.com. And if you keep attracting the same patterns over and over again and you want to know your hidden blocks, definitely pick up that beautiful book that Orna and Matthew wrote and hop on a private call with me. We can map out a specific dating plan to override some of these patterns on top of it. So just click the link you see in the show notes. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.